today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at the upcoming pattern. There is a few major storms in the upcoming 10 days that I am a little bit concerned about, so we're going to be primarily focusing on those. I want to take a big deep dive into that, but we're going to just get into all these things. Let's go forward towards the later portion of today here, and we can see pretty nasty weather here happening across a lot of the Gulf and southeast states. As you can see, there's also a lot of colder air diving into, again, the mid-Atlantic and southeast here. Certainly bringing cooler, more dreary, cloudy, sprinkly, foggy, perhaps, weather for a lot of these areas. As we just keep going with this, I want to see what Easter morning looks like for a lot of us. And as you can see, a lot of this is going to be lingering for this southeast coast through the morning tomorrow morning. So your Easter morning for portions of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia are going to look quite like this, but mostly quieter for everywhere else other than the Northwest here, where we have another storm system moving on shore. By the time we reach Easter evening, for some families that do, dinner at times on these holidays, I kind of realize my family always does Easter dinner, and it's a big deal. It's kind of like Thanksgiving for my family, but I've met some other families recently that it's not that big of a deal for them. They don't really do that. So I want to know, that's a good comment for you guys to leave down below, is does your family treat it like another Thanksgiving where it is like a big get together, or is it kind of just like just another holiday where it doesn't really garner a gathering of that sort? I am curious for those of you that do celebrate Easter, if that is the case. So let me know. I am just curious to hear about that. A little bit of a poll today. By the time we reach Monday, though, we can see that we have a pretty decent ridge, and it's a little bit inverted here, where it's heading towards kind of south central Canada here. So we're seeing something like this is the flow of these temperatures. And we're seeing some cold air because of this able to dive in like this. So this is the flow of things. It's not that dramatic. There is more warm air here than there is cold air here. This is pretty mild in the east, and that's going to be Monday into Tuesday. And for the day on Tuesday, we're also seeing very quiet weather, again, outside of that northwest corridor here, where we do see some snow and some rain depending on the elevation, depending on the location here. We're seeing some of that activity happening there. And by the time we're reaching maybe midweek, this is going to be Wednesday afternoon time frame, by about maybe 2, 3, 4 p.m. here on Wednesday, April 12th, we see this big time ridge in the east. We see this storm across the northwest. So we're seeing a flow. Something like this is really what we're seeing a majority of here. Now, Thursday here, we're seeing on April 13th, we're seeing a flow in the jet stream, still something like this. So we're going to see this warmer air still prevailing later into the week, and a little bit of cooler, stormier weather here for the Northwest. And I'm going to just draw your attention here midweek. We do see this little bit of tropical activity perhaps taking place, a little bit of a tropical wave here along the Gulf there. That's going to be very early on Thursday morning, and this does somewhat make landfall by the time we're reaching maybe early to midday on Friday. Here for portions of the Gulf states, it seems a little bit less intense here than we originally anticipated, but areas in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida could initially feel impacts from this there on the day on Friday. And as we reach later into the week, it might be more for the entire southeast, as we see states like Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and a bit of southeast Virginia getting involved with this for the day on Saturday, April 15th. And then for Sunday the 16th here, we get a very interesting look as this ridge returns to the west. We see a rather large mid-April trough here in the east. This would bring potential for some frost and freezes for some of these areas. And, once we get later in the spring like this, it does become more and more concerning to see these types of things popping up here for those of us that garden or, even large farms. This is extremely impactful for them as well. More impactful than just a garden, obviously. We can see that this is still diving into the southeast portions of the mid-Atlantic by the time we're reaching early on Tuesday or perhaps late on Wednesday there, 17th into the 18th, with still the warmest temperatures being out west. Now, as we take a look here at the total precipitation, we see two things. We're going to see plenty of storms moving through the northwest like this, and we also see some precipitation rising up here for the south central and obviously the southeast, with this not only stormy weather that's here currently into tomorrow on Easter, but also that tropical development later on next week that is also going to bring more precipitation up that southeast coast. So these are some of your areas to watch for some activity over the next 10 days. The total snowfall here, as you can see, there's going to be quite a bit for the Cascades and Rockies, a little bit less than we've been seeing, but we do expect a receding amount of snowfall as we reach our way closer and closer to early summer. We can see for the Great Lakes and upper Midwest, we see some snowfall and a little bit still left over for the Northeast, but that is going to be pretty much the first area to see no more snow, and then probably the Great Lakes here in upper Midwest. And then finally, this Rockies and Cascades area will also fall off and have no more snow expected, and then we wait for next winter. As we take a look at the GFS model here, we do get some larger storms here. That was, of course, our European model. But what I'm mostly concerned about here is this storm right here on Saturday, very early on Saturday, April 15th. We see a stronger low here over eastern Colorado, and you can tell that it does have some of these dynamics where we see this warm front here and a little bit of a cold front here, and we'd be watching this pocket right there for severe weather. That's again for Saturday, well, Friday into Saturday, we see that developing, and then even on the day on Saturday into Sunday here, we see this for further east areas, perhaps here for Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, and even southern Minnesota, perhaps. I want to see if this continues. Because next Monday here, we can see that we have more of this activity underneath this low for a lot of areas in kind of the Mississippi River area. And then we get a lot of that precipitation along the coast for Tuesday into Wednesday here. So a lot of activity popping up here on the GFS model as well. We do get a colder pattern in place for the east, and that kind of sticks around for quite a while here on this GFS model all the way to the 24th of April here. We have some colder area able to work its way in. A little bit mild with the cold, but this warmth actually looks quite intense, moving its way all the way up into pretty far in Canada. Now, the temperature pattern, according to this European model, we do have some colder air along your kind of Gulf states, the south central here, into the northeast here. We're seeing quite a bit, but also some cold out west. Where this pattern is really going to land is it's actually going to keep pushing this warmth further and further east, as you can see. So we're at peaks late next week. Thursday and Friday looks very, very warm across the central and the eastern United States here. A lot of cold working its way down the west coast, all the way down to Mexico. Certainly an extreme cool down there compared to what they've been seeing. As we just keep going, though, we can see things progressively cool down in the east, and we're left with this kind of double dip trough here, something like this. That's a little bit intense, but we can see that there's a trough here, ridge for the middle. This is a pretty rare pattern. What I have seen quite a bit of is a ridge on both coasts with a pretty decent trough there across the central. This is what I've always called a horseshoe pattern with a ridge here, and trough in the middle. But I've rarely seen this where there's a trough, ridge, trough. But, you know, maybe this is going to come to be true. We do see that it looks like the east gets kind of warmer around that 20th time frame here, where there's more warmth here, more cold here. So likely you can kind of picture what that jet stream would look like. But as we keep going with this, we see that cold returns in the east according to this European and solid model. So there's multiple players here that are bringing in factors. Certainly a whole lot to watch here. So we're going to be uploading every single day like we always do. Be sure to tune in daily. You can even hit the subscribe button, so that way it pops up in your subscription box. Even hitting that bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.